Hello lovely people, welcome to another video for This Is Youtober. My name is Sam, this is Shadow Harvest, and Youtober I do a video every single day of the month, or at least attempt to. Other years they've failed a little bit, that's fine. This will be a coffee and cauldrons. If you are unaware as to what that is, on my channel that is where I dive more into my own path, talking about things. These get real chatty, and today we're doing a little bit of an update on me and my deities, as so many people have asked kind of for them, like what's going on for me I guess in the astral with all of them, and I figured we'd do that. So these do tend to run on, so get a beverage of something lovely and let's chat meditations and deity work, shall we? I have now been a witch for 5-6-ish years. I have been exploring deity work for a good amount of it. A good 90%. I think there was an interesting lead up for the first like 6-7 months of my craft where I was like, I don't really know if this is a thing. And then I kind of like stuck my toe in the water, or more so Persephone kind of grabbed me and dragged me into the water. And they've been a big part of my practice ever since. Now, that being said, for my personal stuff, this might not align with y'all's. Everyone's relationship to the gods is different. What I'm doing may not work for you. What you are doing may not work for me. It don't matter, right? We're all on our own little paths here. I personally find it that the gods were in the beginning, and also too I think because I was just paying so much more attention to them and my giving to them and my altars and all that stuff, were way more attentive, way more a part of my craft. It was a very hand is in the fucking thing all the time with them. Whether that be Persephone constantly giving me messages, Loki, my other main deity, and then Sobek, were the big three that I work with. Persephone being utmost, the other two kind of wriggle around when they want. And then I work in time with other deities, currently working very closely with some Aphrodite stuff. Most of my meditations, I think this is the main reason why they haven't been as prevalent as much, is I do love to go into the astral. By that I mean I sit down, and in my meditations it is basically me kind of going to a place that I have constructed within my mind that is considered safe for spiritual works. For me, this transition kind of started when I was very younger, before I even got into witchcraft and deity work. I was looking into different types of meditations. How do you get into and breach that, you know, just letting your mind run about your to-do list and what the hell is going on, and other little daydreams that you get into. It's like, how do you focus mostly on a spiritual thing? And time again, I kept running into people saying, like, think of a place. What is a place and an action of picturing yourself kind of going through that then can be a sort of trigger for you to get into that mental space? Think about how if your environment does affect you, right, then you want to imagine yourself in an environment that constantly is the transition place into where you are now going to be interacting with those beyond, the divine, etc. and so forth. I don't always necessarily need to like kind of like use that to get into a meditative space to contact with my deities. As I mentioned before, Persephone just likes to grab sometimes, and now we're here. But usually what I end up doing is I sit down, I meditate, and usually have some sort of very deep thrumming, repetitive music. Really helps me with no lyrics of any kind. Got into the big habit of doing is there is this place within my astral where it is very much a town of a singular stretch. In it there are ways and access points for me to then go out and explore the underworld, under the plane, something else my deities want to show me, dive into my dreams. But if things get a little scary, a little bit too much, a little emotionally overwhelming, I can always retreat back to the place that I've created, my town that is very literal. There's like a couple streets with like a bunch of stuff going off all around it, and this town is surrounded by a forest. So I always like to imagine myself, I'm standing like maybe out in the woods somewhere in Forest Park, which is near Portland. And I will stand there and just like think to myself, I'm like, all right, you're in Forest Park, you're on the trail path, you know where you are. You've seen it a million times, you know this. But I love to then meditate as water starts raining down, torrentially downpours, and starts to flood up, as if I was like in a basement. There's something very transference about the water where it's like this coming up is a kind of like a sinking almost into this space. It feels like I'm going into a deep part of myself that is therefore then connected to the outer stuff, if that makes sense. So I like to envision the water's coming up, and I do get a little panicky at this point. I remember the first time this kind of like visualization kind of came to me. I can't remember, I think it was Loki. It was the idea of like, what is the most chaotic thing? What is something that actually really terrifies me? Drowning is one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'm like really happy that I'm a really good swimmer, and I like to routinely polish up my swimming when I can. There is a pool at my gym I like to use at times, because the idea of like being dragged under into water and not being able to breathe, no like that, not one bit. Nope. So the first time this happened, and like, I think if anyone else knows of deep meditation, sometimes you're trying to get your head into that place. You're thinking of what are the sights, what are the smells, what are the sounds, what are the sensations. You're trying to get yourself to like feel what is there and around you. And so like, I'm feeling the wet on my skin, I'm feeling the water rising up, I am feeling how cold it is. It's always very cold to me. It's always that like fresh spring or fall, like right like as the seasons are shifting, it's getting that chill. That type of rain, that cold is what I'm talking about with the water. And it's coming up. I remember panicking, and I always have to kind of like calm myself down. It's like, no, we know where we're going, this is fine, as it like comes up. And I just breathe kind of normally, like I'm inhaling, exhaling water. I can feel it coming in and out of my lungs, but it does not affect my ability to breathe at all. It is fine. And then as I like open, I go from like opening my eyes in the meditation and like looking around, and I can see the whole forest kind of become mist over by this water, all kind of blue and tint clear. And then as it gets to a certain point, it's like if I looked up, the water would go on forever. It's like I'm standing at the bottom of the damn ocean. It is darker, it is misty, it's whatever. But then very slowly, the water then drains back down. Down. And as it does, I realize that the forest I'm now in is different. It is usually kind of in a warmer sepia-ish tone, but not quite, like not to the full, like there is no greenery. It's like, no, there's greenery, there are things, but it's almost very golden hour colors. Everything's a little more saturated, and it all kind of like goes down. And I know that if I walked always to my left, I could find my nice little straight blank town and I would be safe. And if I went to my right, it's into the woods of the wilds in my mind. That is where Loki a lot of times gets in contact with me. That he'll kind of beckon at times. I can like see this like different formed god off in there, and I always recognize Loki by their smile, never by anything else, because I don't think I have ever seen Loki in the same form twice. Like, it's always a little bit off, a little bit different, a little bit whatever. And to that point, it also always is like a little concerning. When I'm interacting with Loki in my meditations, I do have this little bit of a test of like, are you who I think you are? Like, it is this, he always has to kind of like regain my trust, but he always does it in a very like playful, chaotic, like whatever way. And so like the first several moments within the meditation with Loki is always me kind of going like, where are we going? Where are we going in the woods? What, am I about to like have a moment? Is this gonna get dangerous or tricky or weird? Also too, many a times with my meditations with him, it is much more of a tough love, chaos is just gonna happen. It is, I think this is also kind of the routine when I need to remember the lesson that you can't control everything. There is no 100% guarantee that you are going to be okay, whether in a spiritual exploration, a relationship, in a job, what have you. Bad things are gonna happen. No matter what you do, maybe they'll end up happening. He constantly likes to remind that of me. It's like, when I'm like, well, can I trust you? He's like, well, maybe not. Like, we'll see what happens, won't we? We'll have to come out of this and see how it goes. My most recent meditation that came with Loki, I have another way that I get into some of these, and it's usually when I'm in a more not good state of mind. Usually it is I am stuck, I am really anxiety ridden, I am doubting so much of what I'm currently doing, attempting to do, relationships I'm in. At times over the wild woods, I have this idea and this vision of me turning into like a entire murder of crows, almost like a swarm of bugs that can like just fly over and zoom through all these trees, and above the forest I am safe. I can quickly get to the town that I've mentioned before, which is my safe place in all my meditations. But there have been times before where suddenly I find myself jerked out of this form of free-flowing air. It's like freedom, it is exploration, it is fine. I'm jerked out, I am human, and I am falling. And I am falling fast, I'm gonna fall hard. I'm gonna hit. gonna break bones. It's gonna frickin' hurt. And I always end up in like this weird ravine thing. Like it's very much like Grand Canyon-y, like big old things, place at the bottom, just imagine like whoo, splat. Just me. And like Sally from freaking Nightmare Before Christmas, I am constantly then in those moments surrounded by maybe a deity, maybe a ancestor I have now been stumbling upon into with some of these meditations, but a lot of times it is always people kind of surrounding me, but no one ever gets up to help me. I have to, like Sally, pull myself and piece myself back together. And most recently in that, when I had this moment of like falling into this ravine, Loki is then standing there off a little into the distance, and once I've kind of pieced myself-ish back together, but I'm like hobbling through to like see what is next and what I need to be shown, he's in there shoving me, going like, all right, come on, move, let's get going. I understand you're bruised, I understand you're broken, keep it moving, let's move it, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. A lot of times in that most recent thing, it was a kind of a shoving, I think, out of a bit of my anger and my grief with having to do with baby Boo passing on. I was very heartbroken. I felt very like in the thick of the sludge of it. While Persephone, which I'll get into in a little bit, had a different vibe and a reaction. With Loki, it was very much at the time I was like trying to think of like, well, I feel stuck, I want to get my life moving, what do I do? And it was just Loki kind of shoving me through. There was almost it was a level of care-ish, but almost no care. It was you want to get moving, then get moving. You cannot sit here in this sludge if what you want is to progress forward. And that was basically what he was doing the entire time. It was every time I felt a sense of him, or and if it just felt like a shove on my shoulder, there was no aid of any kind, no reassuring words, nothing else. It was just get moving. Yeah, chaos sometimes ends in bad. Sometimes chaos ends in death or sickness or nothing at all pleasant. And I remember complaining to him after he like shoved me for like the 5th or 6th time in this meditation and being like, well, why chaos is supposed to be like unpredictable? Why is it currently that like it's always been bad? What? There's not been a drop of good in any of this. And he goes, 1, really? Really? Has there not been? 2, and like, if you're wanting to know when the next good is going to come, then it's not chaotic, it's not knowable, it's not entirely like, if you want to assign some sort of predilection to what's going to happen next, when is your next good thing coming, that's not how chaos works. It's the chaos, the unknown is the unknown. Learn to live with it, little one. And I was like, and that was pretty much the only major interaction I've had with Loki for several months. So that's basically Loki. Now on to the Persephone side. I regularly, when I was talking about not the falling meditations, although she always seems to be over my shoulder, kind of like watching over, seems more of like the caring feeling that is like reaching over, almost like wanting to intervene but won't, always kind of standing in the background watching. And my most recent, most potent reaction with her is while I was holding baby Boo in my arms while she was passing on into the underworld. I had this moment and I was very terrified, I think, through that whole experience of being like, when it is put on you to like kind of decide what is enough for another living being, what is me holding on, what is actually what's good for her and onward. And as Boo was given the final injection, I felt this like hand on my shoulder, and it was very much Persephone being there. I felt just like this warming presence at my back. Whew, not gonna cry, not gonna cry. And I just heard this overwhelming warm voice in my head be like, I've got her, I've got her, I'll guide her to the next parts, okay? And that was probably the most reassuring thing. I didn't necessarily call on her. I was calling on all the other deities that had to deal with cats. I wasn't necessarily dealing with that. And at the time it's like, oh yeah, that's right, like the main goddess that I work, it's a dead goddess. She works the queen of the underworld. Like this is her, this is the part that she's got. And so that overwhelming comfort that was there, I've given her a lot more offerings and such, even just my energy out to her since then. And And other times when I've gone into that meditative state, there's times where like I see her off in the distance and there's always like a little flick of a tail. Like it's like that thing you always see at the corner of your eye, like a little black tail, a little black ear that moves out of sight, almost like off to exploring. And so I always love those little quick reminders of baby Boo in the Astral, and the idea of like that Persephone still watching over her, still making sure that her soul is going in a good place and all that. Now, I think one of the things too, when it comes to the deities and large, Sobek entirely has been mostly absent at the current moment. Those are the main two interactions I've had so far in the most recent months when it comes to Persephone and Loki. Sobek is, I think, oh wait, he was just lingering on the side, but I think a lot of times his signs to me in the mundane are very obvious, right? I see a crocodile, I hear a message. And always I see a crocodile, to me it's a sign to listen to your instincts. What is, not even this, but like the animalistic part telling you? Is there a sign to run, a sign to go, a sign to attack, a sign to push forward, like whatever the first instinctual thing that comes to mind that I want to do? If I see a crocodile, I know to continue with that. It is important, it is of significance. And crocodiles are not something that really pops up all that often for me. I laugh when they do come up, and I really always make note of them if it's something that is out of left field, especially when I'm like, because usually I'll have an instinctual thought and then immediately a doubt will follow, and then like I'll turn a corner and there's a crocodile statue, or someone will then want to show me a thing, and for like in a video or something, and they were not showing me because of the crocodile in the video, but there just so happens to be a crocodile in the video as part of the thing, or like that's how that ends up happening. So mostly there's nothing been in the Astral so far. I just have continual instinctual things when it comes to Sobek showing up, and just kind of like the crocodile is there. Remember to think of your instincts. Sobek is also very in that way, the trust your instincts, the trust your intuition is kind of his main lesson, I think, overall with things, especially because a lot of stuff I'm dealing with too is not so much stuff in his wheelhouse, but other than that overall theme that seems to be a constant part of my spiritual interactions and givings and lessons with him. The idea of the crocodile that's like lying in wait, the rest, the under the water, or the lying on top of the water, just like la 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 la. That is a natural instinct for the crocodiles. Chill. They're not exerting effort unless they're about to like go under and then snap. They wait. They are patient. They are very like in tune with the idea that like I'm not going to rush to the attack unless it is time to, unless my instincts say to snap at that time. Then of course, yes, do it. And that level of patience, I think, is kind of where it is for me right now with his interactions. When I do see Sobek, it is very much almost like he's encouraging me to chill out, and has been for like the last, I think, year. It's always very much like he is a lazy ass crocodile on a bank chilling in the water, and he encourages me to like get on his back, or to like lay against him, or to just like stop, just float. You're in the water, float, child. Stop being so all of it about it all. Which in a way ties into how Loki talks too, very much of like, you can't control everything. You rushing around and making a mess and exerting all this extra energy, what is that doing? What is that doing? This is not, what are your instincts telling? Are your instincts saying now is the time? No, no. Then calm down. Chill. Do not. This is no reason for this. Chill the fuck out. So that is basically where I'm at with the deities and stuff right now. Comment down below. Comment down below what have been some of your deity interactions recently. What are things that have you been vibing with? What works well for y'all? Also, like, I'd love to hear, I think I might talk more, maybe do a whole like illustrated version of like what my astral place looks like as a video further down in the months. Let me know if you guys would be willing to see that, because I always am very interested in how other people get into these meditative states to then speak with the divine or the other world, the other entities out there. Like, is that the way you do it, or are you much more of a mundane person? You know, comment down below. Are you much more of like, I just receive signs, whether it's seeing numbers, images, what have you? If something pops up in my day-to-day, then I know that the deities are talking to me. Do you not like seek out in any sort of like mental way to it? All of that in the comments down below. But anyway, this is October, so there will be more videos tomorrow and continuing on. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.